Good evening. And let me say something right now that might completely flip everything you think you know about protecting your brain as you age. That sandwich you're eating tonight, the snack you grab before bed without thinking, it could be silently destroying memory circuits in your brain, or it could be rebuilding them while you sleep. And here's the part that should make you angry. The most powerful brain-repairing food you can eat before bed is something your doctor has probably told you to avoid. I'm going to reveal exactly what it is, but first you need to understand why what you eat in those final 90 minutes before sleep is the most critical nutritional decision you make all day. I've spent over 3 decades studying how food interacts with the human body at the cellular level. Not surface-level wellness advice, I mean deep biochemistry. The kind of research that gets published in journals most people never see. The kind that explains why your memory isn't what it used to be. And more importantly, what you can do about it tonight. Now look, I need to be very clear about something before we go any further. What I'm about to share with you is not some trendy superfood nonsense. This is not about expensive supplements or exotic berries shipped from the other side of the planet. Every single food I'm going to talk about tonight is sitting in your local grocery store right now. Probably costs less than $5 and has been studied by researchers at Harvard Medical School, Johns Hopkins, and the Mayo Clinic. Real institutions, real science, real results. And here's what those researchers found that should be headline news, but somehow isn't. A study involving over 900 older adults found that seniors who ate specific nutrients before bed experienced memory consolidation improvements of up to 43%. Now, think about that number for a second. 43%. That is the difference between remembering your grandchild's birthday and that sinking feeling of blankness. That is the difference between walking into a room and knowing exactly why you're there versus standing confused in your own hallway. But here's what makes me genuinely frustrated as a physician. Most people over 65 are doing the exact opposite of what the science says they should be doing. They skip eating before bed entirely because someone once told them it causes weight gain. Or they eat the wrong foods, the ones that spike blood sugar, trigger inflammation, and shut down the exact brain repair processes that happen during sleep. Tonight, that changes for you. Before we count down the 5 foods, I want to hear from you. Right now, drop a comment below and tell me 2 things. Tell me your age, and tell me honestly whether you've noticed any changes in your memory over the last couple of years. Maybe it's small things, misplacing keys, forgetting why you walked into a room. I read every single comment personally, and your answer helps me understand what you're going through. We have an incredible community here of people who refuse to just accept cognitive decline as inevitable, and I want you to be part of it. All right, let's get into the countdown. We're going from number 5 all the way up to number 1, and I promise you that final food is going to surprise you. Number 5 is tart cherry juice. And no, I'm not talking about the bright red sugary stuff you find in the juice aisle next to the fruit punch. I'm talking about 100% pure Montmorency tart cherry juice. And what it does inside your aging brain while you sleep is something that researchers are only now beginning to fully understand. Here's the reality. As you age, your brain starts to accumulate something called neuroinflammation. Now, I want you to picture this clearly because it matters. Imagine your brain's communication highways. Billions of tiny connections, firing signals back and forth. That's how memories form. That's how you think. That's how you stay you. Neuroinflammation is like a traffic jam on those highways. The signals are still trying to get through, but everything slows down. Connections misfire. Memory formation gets disrupted. After age 70, neuroinflammation accelerates dramatically in most people. Researchers at the Cleveland Clinic now consider it one of the primary drivers of age-related memory loss. Not just a side effect, a primary cause. Tart cherries contain one of the highest natural concentrations of melatonin found in any food on Earth. But it's not just about sleep. They also contain compounds called anthocyanins. These are powerful anti-inflammatory molecules that can actually cross the blood-brain barrier. Now, that barrier is your brain's security system. Most substances you eat never make it through, but anthocyanins do. And once they're inside your brain, they go to work suppressing inflammatory proteins that are directly attacking the neurons responsible for storing your memories. At the same time, the melatonin is regulating your sleep. Specifically, it's increasing the amount of deep, slow-wave sleep you get. And this is the stage where your brain does its most intensive memory consolidation work. Think of deep sleep as your brain's maintenance shift. It's when repairs get made, when the experiences of the day get filed into long-term storage. A study published in the European Journal of Nutrition tracked adults over 65 who drank 8 ounces of tart cherry juice every night for 12 weeks. The results? A 24% improvement in sleep efficiency and significantly better scores on episodic memory tests. Now here's the aging-specific piece that makes this even more critical. After age 65, your body's natural melatonin production drops by as much as 50% compared to when you were younger. You are working with half the sleep chemistry you once had. Tart cherry juice helps compensate for that deficit naturally, with virtually no side effects. Here's exactly how to use it. Drink 8 ounces of pure, unsweetened Montmorency tart cherry juice about 60 to 90 minutes before bed. Make absolutely sure the label says Montmorency tart cherry, not sweet cherry, because the chemical composition is completely different. If the tartness bothers you, dilute it with a little water, but do not add sugar. And here's a tip for enhanced absorption. Pair your tart cherry juice with a small amount of healthy fat, even just a few walnut halves. Why? Because anthocyanins are fat soluble. They absorb far more efficiently into your bloodstream when consumed with a bit of fat. Now let's move to number 4. And this one is sitting in almost every senior's refrigerator right now, but almost nobody is eating it at the right time of day. I'm talking about Greek yogurt. Most people think of Greek yogurt as a breakfast food, maybe a snack. But what happens in your brain when you eat it before sleep is something most doctors never discuss. The reason Greek yogurt makes this list is because of its exceptionally high concentration of an amino acid called tryptophan. Now, you might have heard of tryptophan in relation to Thanksgiving turkey and feeling sleepy, but here's what's actually happening at a biochemical level. Tryptophan is the direct precursor to serotonin. Your brain takes tryptophan, processes it into serotonin, and then converts that serotonin into melatonin. Think of tryptophan as the raw material. Without that raw material, the production line shuts down. When you eat Greek yogurt before bed, you're restocking your brain's production line with everything it needs to manufacture the neurochemicals that govern sleep quality and memory consolidation. But here's the aging-specific factor. There's a phenomenon in aging biology called anabolic resistance. That's the medical term for your body's reduced ability to use protein effectively as you get older. After age 70, your muscles and your brain both become less efficient at extracting the building blocks from protein consumed during the day. However, research from Maastricht University found something fascinating. Slow digesting proteins consumed in the evening, specifically casein protein, the type found in Greek yogurt, are processed differently. Because casein digests slowly over 6 to 8 hours, it sustains amino acid availability throughout the entire night while you sleep. For your brain, this means a continuous supply of the raw materials needed to repair synaptic connections. Now, I want you to understand what synaptic connections actually are. Every memory you have, every face you recognize, every skill you've learned, exists as a physical pattern of connections between brain cells. Those connections are called synapses, and those synapses require protein-derived compounds to maintain their structure. 1 cup of full-fat Greek yogurt contains approximately 17 to 20 grams of protein with a casein-dominant profile. That makes it one of the most brain-friendly bedtime foods in existence. Here's exactly how to use it. Take 1 cup of full-fat Greek yogurt, not the fat-free variety because you need that fat for optimal nutrient absorption, and eat it about 45 minutes before bed. You can stir in a small amount of raw honey, which has its own remarkable properties I'm going to explain when we get to number 2, or add a few blueberries. But avoid granola or anything high in sugar because those spike insulin at bedtime and interfere with brain repair. Now, before we get into the top 3, I need to pause and ask you something. If what you're hearing right now is opening your eyes, please take 1 second and hit that subscribe button. I release new videos every single week specifically designed for people who are serious about protecting their brain health and their independence as they age. Your support genuinely matters. All right, let's get into the top 3. At number 3, and I want you to listen very carefully here, we have walnuts. Not a handful of mixed nuts, not almonds, not cashews, specifically walnuts. Let me tell you about Margaret, 74 years old, retired school teacher, sharp woman her entire life. She came to me genuinely frightened. She had been misplacing things constantly, losing the thread of conversations mid-sentence, forgetting the names of neighbors she had known for 30 years. Her regular doctor told her this was simply normal aging and there was nothing to be done. Margaret started eating a small handful of walnuts every night before bed. Within 8 weeks, she came back to my office and I remember her exact words. She said, "It feels like someone turned a light back on." Now look, I don't make miracle claims. Every person is different. But Margaret's experience reflects what the science consistently shows. Walnuts are the only nut with a significant amount of a specific omega-3 fatty acid called alpha-linolenic acid. But the most important compound in walnuts for brain health is their exceptionally high level of DHA precursors, which your body converts into docosahexaenoic acid. DHA is the fatty acid that makes up approximately 60% of your brain's structural fat. Think of DHA like the insulation around electrical wiring. Without sufficient DHA, the signals traveling between your brain cells become slow, distorted, inefficient. After age 65, your brain's ability to maintain DHA levels drops dramatically. Research published in the Journal of Nutrition, Health, and Aging found that older adults who consumed walnuts regularly demonstrated significantly better memory scores, faster cognitive processing speeds, and greater mental flexibility. A separate study from UCLA involving over 600 adults with an average age of 68 found that higher walnut consumption was associated with a 52% lower risk of poor cognitive function. 52%! That number should be on billboards. Now here's why timing matters for walnuts specifically. During deep sleep, your brain activates what scientists call the glymphatic system. This is a network of channels that flushes out metabolic waste, including the amyloid plaques associated with Alzheimer's disease. This flushing process requires healthy brain cell membranes to function properly, and those membranes are built from the fatty acids that walnuts help supply. Eating walnuts before bed ensures that your body has the necessary building materials circulating in your bloodstream precisely when your glymphatic system needs them most. Here's exactly how to use them. Eat between 1 and 1.5 ounces of raw or dry roasted walnuts. That's approximately a small handful or 14 walnut halves, about 60 minutes before sleep. Do not eat them roasted in oil or salted because the added sodium and oxidized fats reduce the benefit. And here's the synergy tip. Pair your walnuts with the tart cherry juice. The combination creates what researchers describe as a compounded anti-inflammatory effect in the brain, more powerful than either one alone. These two items together cost less than $2 a night. Now we're at number 2. And this one has been eaten by humans for thousands of years. Ancient physicians prescribed it for mental clarity, and modern neuroscience is now validating it. I'm talking about raw honey, and I need to be very specific about the type because the honey sitting in most people's pantries is a very different product. Raw, unprocessed honey, specifically Manuka honey or local raw wildflower honey, contains a remarkable compound called pinosembrin. This is a flavonoid found in very few other dietary sources. Pinosembrin has been shown in research to promote the growth of new neurons in the hippocampus. That's the region of your brain most directly responsible for forming and storing new memories. Now, the ability to grow new brain cells, a process called neurogenesis, was once believed to stop in early adulthood. We now know that neurogenesis continues throughout your entire life, and that it can be both accelerated and inhibited by what you eat. Raw honey accelerates it. Processed sugar does the opposite. Let me explain why this matters for people over 65. After age 75, your hippocampus shrinks at a rate of approximately 1 to 2% per year in the absence of protective measures. That shrinkage is directly correlated with declining episodic memory. But researchers found that daily consumption of raw honey was associated with significantly increased levels of something called BDNF. That stands for brain-derived neurotrophic factor. Think of BDNF as fertilizer for your brain. It promotes the growth, maintenance, and repair of neurons. Adults over 60 typically have BDNF levels 30 to 40% lower than younger adults. Raw honey helps restore them. There's also the matter of honey's impact on cortisol, the stress hormone. Elevated cortisol at night is one of the most destructive forces in the aging brain. It literally kills hippocampal neurons with prolonged exposure, and it suppresses the deep sleep stages where memory consolidation occurs. Raw honey triggers a modest, controlled insulin response that gently lowers cortisol levels before sleep. Research from the University of Malaya showed that subjects who consumed raw honey before bed demonstrated significantly lower midnight cortisol levels and significantly higher scores on memory tests the following morning. Here's the exact protocol. 1 to 2 teaspoons of raw honey taken about 30 minutes before bed. More than 2 teaspoons begins to spike insulin too aggressively. The honey must be raw and unheated because processing destroys the pinosembrin and the enzymatic compounds responsible for neurogenesis. Look for honey labeled raw and unfiltered, ideally from a local beekeeper. You can stir it in the warm herbal tea, but not hot water above 104 degrees Fahrenheit because heat destroys the active compounds. And here's the synergy pairing. Combine your raw honey with the Greek yogurt we talked about earlier. The casein protein slows the release of honey sugars and extends the cortisol-lowering effect throughout the night. Let me tell you about Robert, 71 years old. Retired engineer, meticulous man, always prided himself on his sharp mind. When he started struggling to recall neighbors' names and Forgetting mid-sentence what he intended to say, he described it as the most disorienting experience of his life. Robert began what I call the evening brain protocol, which includes several of these foods with raw honey as a cornerstone. After 10 weeks, he returned genuinely emotional. He said he had started doing crossword puzzles again, something he had quietly stopped because they had become too frustrating. He said his wife commented that he seemed like himself again. That is what we're talking about here. Not just test scores, real life reclaimed. And now we arrive at number 1, the most powerful brain-repairing food you can eat before bed. The one I told you most people over 70 have been advised to avoid, and the one that I consider to be the most important dietary intervention for cognitive longevity. That food is fatty fish, specifically wild-caught salmon, sardines, or mackerel, eaten as a light evening meal or substantial snack approximately 2 hours before bed. Now, I know what many of you are thinking. You've been told to watch your cholesterol. You've been told that eating before bed leads to weight gain. And I'm going to ask you to hold those concerns while I show you what the science actually says. Wild-caught fatty fish is the most concentrated dietary source of preformed DHA and EPA. Those are the 2 omega-3 fatty acids that are not merely beneficial for brain health, they are structurally essential to it. These are literal building blocks of brain tissue. Your brain is approximately 60% fat by dry weight, and the single most important fat in that 60% is DHA. Every neuron in your brain is encased in a membrane made largely of DHA. Every synaptic connection where memories are stored requires DHA for structural integrity. Here is the critical aging-specific issue. After the age of 60, your liver's ability to convert plant-based omega-3s, the kind found in walnuts and flaxseed, into the DHA your brain actually uses drops by roughly 60 to 70%. This means that for most people over 60, plant sources are providing a fraction of the benefit. The only way to ensure your brain is receiving adequate DHA is through direct consumption of preformed omega-3s. And the richest dietary source is fatty fish. Research from Rush University Medical Center, part of the landmark MIND diet study involving over 900 older adults, found that those who ate fish at least once per week had brains that were the equivalent of 11 years younger in cognitive function compared to those who ate fish rarely or never. 11 years younger, not marginally better. A full decade's worth of aging essentially reversed through a single dietary habit. Now, the reason evening timing is particularly powerful comes back to the glymphatic system, your brain's overnight cleaning mechanism. This system activates during deep sleep and flushes metabolic waste products, including amyloid beta proteins associated with cognitive decline. This flushing process is dramatically more effective when brain cell membranes are rich in DHA. Researchers at the University of Rochester found that glymphatic clearance is up to 60% more efficient during sleep when subjects had adequate DHA levels. Eating fatty fish in the evening ensures peak DHA availability during the hours when your brain's cleaning crew is working hardest. There are additional compounds in fatty fish that make it uniquely suited to this role. Wild salmon is rich in astaxanthin, a carotenoid antioxidant that crosses the blood-brain barrier and is among the most potent neuroprotective compounds known. It is 20 times more powerful as an antioxidant than vitamin C, and it specifically targets the mitochondria inside neurons. Mitochondria are the tiny energy-generating structures inside every brain cell. After 65, neuronal mitochondria begin to dysfunction at an accelerating rate. They produce less energy and generate more damaging free radicals. Astaxanthin helps restore their function. Fatty fish is also exceptionally rich in vitamin D3, vitamin B12, and selenium, 3 nutrients in which the majority of people over 65 are clinically deficient. B12 deficiency alone is estimated to affect between 15 and 40% of adults over 60 and is directly linked to brain atrophy, memory loss, and mood disturbance. A single 4-ounce serving of wild salmon provides roughly 80% of the daily B12 requirement. Researchers at the Karolinska Institute in Sweden followed over 1,000 adults aged 60 to 90 for 7 years. They found that those with the highest blood levels of omega-3 fatty acids showed 73% less hippocampal shrinkage over the 7-year period. 73%. The hippocampus is the memory center of your brain, the structure that Margaret and Robert and thousands of my patients have felt quietly shrinking. There is something you can do. You can eat the right food at the right time. Here's the practical protocol. Wild-caught Alaskan salmon, Atlantic sardines packed in water or olive oil, and Atlantic mackerel are your best options. Fresh is ideal, but high-quality canned sardines and salmon are equally effective and far more affordable. A 4 to 5 ounce serving 2 hours before bed gives your digestive system time to process and begin releasing fatty acids into your bloodstream in alignment with your sleep cycle. Prepare it simply, baked, steamed, or eaten directly from the can. Avoid heavy sauces, breading, or frying. The synergy pairing for fatty fish is raw honey taken 30 minutes after your fish meal. The honey's effect on cortisol reduction creates a calmer neurochemical environment in which the omega-3s can do their most effective repair work. And if you combine fatty fish, a small handful of walnuts, and 1 to 2 teaspoons of raw honey as your complete evening brain protocol, you are providing your brain with DHA for structural repair, BDNF stimulation for neuron growth, glymphatic support for waste clearance, anti-inflammatory protection, and cortisol management, all in a single coordinated intervention that costs less than a cup of coffee every night. Now, let me leave you with something I say to my patients often. The notion that cognitive decline is simply an inevitable part of getting older, that the brain is on a one-way slide after 65 and there is nothing meaningful to be done, is one of the most damaging ideas in modern medicine. Not because it's entirely false, but because it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy when people believe it and stop fighting back. The people I have watched maintain their sharpness, their independence, their ability to live fully well into their 80s are not people who were simply lucky. They are people who made decisions, small daily decisions about what they put into their bodies and when. They are people who refuse to accept helplessness. It is never too late. The research on neuroplasticity, your brain's ability to physically change and grow new connections in response to the right inputs, is clear. Adults in their 80s have been shown to grow new hippocampal neurons in response to the right nutritional interventions. Your brain wants to heal. It is trying to heal every single night while you sleep. The only question is whether you are giving it what it needs. So here's what I want you to do right now. First, leave me a comment below and tell me which of these 5 foods you're going to start with tonight. Tell me your age. Tell me if you've been struggling with memory. I read every single comment. Second, if this video gave you even one piece of actionable information, please hit that subscribe button. Every week I bring you research-backed information about aging, brain health, and longevity that you deserve to have. Hit the notification bell so you never miss a new video. And third, please share this with someone you love who is over 60, because the information in this video could genuinely change the course of their life. The scientific references for everything I've shared are listed in the description below. I encourage you to read them, share them with your doctor, and have a conversation about how these foods fit into your specific health picture. Thank you for being here. Thank you for taking your health seriously. And thank you for refusing to accept that cognitive decline is just something that happens. You have more control than you've been told. I'll see you in the next video.